Thank you, Megan Pennington, and welcome to the interview. Our guest is a singer songwriter from North Carolina, described on her website as a creature who lives outside of time, loosely associated with the elements. Her 2019 debut EP, I assume ironically entitled Singularity, can't be pinned to one genre. I've read her described as folk blues, but in my opinion, there's an undeniable sultriness to her voice and her music that only jazz can carry off. Her latest single, Cigarette, appears to be leaning more into the jazz elements, and we'll talk more about her mixture and her instincts as we go forward. Calling in from Concord, North Carolina, here she is, Micah, spelled Micvh. Micah, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, Craig. Thanks for having me.
So, I met you, I'm marking it somewhere between 2014 and 2015 in Concord, Salisbury area, where I was kind of getting my start at that point. Where were you on your musical journey at that point? Were you just starting out, or were you kind of already established yourself in that area?
Around this area, at that point, I was artist, but I would say in the broader music industry, I was still figuring out how to get my feet wet. I understood how to make music, how to present it, how to perform, but I wasn't quite sure how to get into the industry side of it and make those larger steps. So at that time, yeah, I think that was right around when I I was leaving North Carolina and headed out west. And I think I ended up in California at that time.
Yeah. You wound up in California. You made your way to Nashville at one point where we kind of reconnected. And you have been around the world already. And we'll talk a lot more about world travel and the stuff that you've done. But let's get down to just how you're branded and beginning with Shakespeare once said once what's in a name, but the question is what's in a spelling? Why did you decide to turn the A upside down, so to speak, with your stage name?
So I'm really glad you asked this question because two reasons. I'm actually changing my name.
Okay, breaking news.
Breaking news, I'm changing my name. Um, I'm going to move forward. Well, I'll get there in a minute. The reason that that came to be in the first place was that it seems like everyone named Micah is making music.
I
Um,
was going to ask, there is an artist out of Denver that has the same name and spelling for that matter.
oh my gosh, him and I have such a tiff because he was not a musician just a few years ago. And I reached out to him for his Instagram handle. And he said, sure, sure, but I would need you to pay for it. And he wanted some outrageous amount. And I was like, it's okay. I don't need the Instagram handle. And he was a photographer at that time. And he said that he was going to blow up and he didn't want to give up the handle and all that. And I was like, that's fine. You can have it. I'm creative. I'll come up with something else. And
What did you come up with?
well, I didn't because then he started making music.
Okay, so I'm jumping ahead in the timeline. I apologize, but
That's okay. And I was just like, man, the etiquette. I was like, that's rude. That's rude to know and just
he
do that.
can't. Not everybody can have those Southern Charm School manners, you know.
I was like, okay, that's fine. And the thing was that the MICVH came from my old management in Nashville. Um, and they're great people, no qualms with them at all. I think we just had a different idea of what I saw in my music. And I think that they wanted things to go more pop, to go more modern in that sense.
Hmm,
And because there are hundreds of Micahs making music,
I know a few.
yeah, just Micah alone has been taken tens of times over. So they said, well, why don't we spell it different? This will be great. This will be edgy. This will be a whole thing. And again, keep in mind that I was still getting my feet wet in Nashville. So I thought, well, they've been doing this longer than I have. Um, okay. I'll take their word for it and we'll go with it. And at the time, I didn't see an issue. I just wanted to get the music out. The music had been sitting, and I was like, I need to get this out. I don't really care what the name is. And if that's the one that works, then that's the one that works. So I let them run with it. And it was fine for what it is. But through the years, I've sat with it and I've thought, it doesn't resonate with me. And, but I didn't have another name in mind. And my full name, for whatever reason, for a long time, just didn't sit with me in the way that I wanted it to. And since coming back to North Carolina, which is where I'm from originally, since coming back and kind of, how do I say this? I guess seeing myself in full, right?
Mhm.
Getting a more adult idea of where I come from and getting a better idea of the people I come from and getting a
So is
better
that
idea of
you're going to go with your full name,
that.
or is that to say that you're going with a different first name altogether?
Oh, well, I'm just going to go by my full name. I'm going to go by Micah Cottingham. So it is just going to be a very straightforward to the point Micah Cottingham. And when all of the new music is released, that's what it will be released under.
Well, congratulations. I always thought it was a quite beautiful name, and it almost just names with more than two syllables automatically. It sounds like it should be somebody who is of a higher plane, an elevated kind of person, and so it brings it just sounds very classy, I think. So,
Thank you.
I'm glad that has happened. So we're here with Micah Cottingham here on the Craig Veltri interview, service of Scarfire Media LLC. You seem also very meticulous in a lot. We'll talk about the music itself, but I do want to focus in not on the branding as well. I've always known you to have short hair, and not very many women are able to pull off the look. And now you've gotten a very nice buzz cut. If it's not too tacky of a question to ask, is it kind of a utilitarian thing? Is it just the lack of maintenance of it? Why have you decided to go short hair most of the time I've known you?
I suppose I feel like I want to experience a lot of things in my life. And I had long, beautiful hair for 20 something years of my life. And I thought, well, that's cool. I can grow it back out later. I kind of want to know what a mohawk's like. And then I had a mohawk for a while, and I wanted to know what a pixie was like. And so I had that for a while. And now I want to know what the buzz cut is like. So I've had this for a while. And, there's no real reason except just the pure sake of experience.
I'm kind of in the opposite direction. I was private school all my life, and I listened to women who said "cut your hair" one too many times. So
Oh,
I'm at the point that this is the longest my hair has ever been. So it feels like we're like kind of like ships in the night as far as hair is concerned. Maybe we'll meet in
yes.
battle again. But some of the things that really struck me about Singularity, not only the songs of it, but the photography and just the images that you were using on top of it. Mainly on both of the singles and the album, you had a not quite of a mask because it was underneath your eyes, but of gold paint underneath. What was the story behind that? What was the thinking behind that imaging?
Well, at one point in my life, I've never really been drawn to makeup. I've gone through bouts where I've tried, and it
Me
just
too.
never really felt suitable for me, I guess. And then somewhere along the way, I did find that I liked artistically applying makeup in that way. And that particular mask under the eyes, a girl named Savannah in Charleston, she did the makeup for that, and she nailed it, and I loved it. And she understood what I was going for, that it was more of an art and less of a to make me pretty. Um, it was supposed to be decor more than anything. And Something about gold. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't know where it came from, but at some point in my life, gold has just been this thing that I'm attracted to, that I'm just like, oh, that's pretty. That's shiny, you
Some
know.
would argue it's called being a woman, but
Yeah, particularly. I mean, but some women like silver and some people like white gold and some people like platinum. And I'm like, no, I just like a nice yellow gold and I like it shiny. And it doesn't even have to be fancy. I'm like, it can just be what it is. Yeah.
well, not gold, but you do address metal on the album Singularity in Copper and Wine, which was one of the lead singles. And though it was described in one article in particular, and you in general, as folk blues, there was certainly a country tinge to it, and it was recorded in Nashville. Was it the influence? And there were a couple of songs on there. Don't kind of had a country twang to it, and perhaps it
Mhm.
was just your North Carolina roots and your voice bringing it to it. But what, just the production in general about that record? I guess we can just start with being in Nashville. Could you not help yourself but have a little bit of country in it?
I think my accent definitely plays to that. So I think that is a big part of it. Also, Rhett Miller played guitar on that record, and he is country through and through. And Kyle Wiersbe produced it. And while I wouldn't mark him as country, he certainly, being in Nashville, worked with a lot of country folks. So I think it just slipped in via osmosis more so than intention.
And a lot of the percussion accents on it were mostly just, stomp clap kind of things,
Hmm.
and maybe a bass drum on top of that. Was that also a production note from them, or was that something that you heard initially when you brought the songs in?
No, my friend James, he did drums on that record, and it was all his ideas. I really let the musicians run because when I hear a song, I can hear it in its fullness and I can take people to that capacity. But what I have found more fulfilling is to say, okay, this is what I hear. This is how I hear it in my head, but you are the master of the instrument that you're playing. So it might be that I don't know what your instrument can do. So I'm pretty free rein with musicians when I say like, okay, this is what I've come up with. If you like it how I wrote it, play it how I wrote it. If you want to do something different, do something different. So James had a lot of ideas. He did something different. The Doorway came out completely different than the way I wrote it. Um, Don't was pretty on par for the way I wrote it. Copper and Wine as well.
I'm interested about the Doorway because that's probably the mostly because of the upright bass instrumentation in it, but it is also just a deeply soulful song, and it's understandable considering that I had read that you had written that in tribute to your late father,
Mhm.
and so I just want to know what that sounded like in your head, and perhaps because I know that he had a more of a rock and roll kind of vibe about him, for it to be a jazz vibe that came out. How did that suggestion come forth?
So I wrote that song when I was 17. And I wrote, which is, I am nowhere near 17 at this point.
No.
Um, so I wrote that song way back, and I originally wrote it on guitar. There was no bass, and it was a walk down in a D minor chord. That was all it was. It was very simple um, because I didn't know how to play what I was hearing. So I just played the very foundation of what I could hear. And when I brought that to Nashville, and I was telling the guys when we were working on like practicing for the record, I was like, man, I don't know if this song's going to make the cut because it's missing something. And James, the drummer, said, Micah, that song has to go on the record. It's the coolest song. And I was like, I know, but like, what is it missing that I can't figure out? And I told him, and he's like, well, what's the song about? And I told him, I was like, it's about a ghost, and the ghost is my father. And there's this whole backstory to why it's a ghost and all the things. But I was like, yeah, it's about my father who passed and how he would come visit me and the experience that I had the first time I knew it was him. And me being still angry that he was dead because I didn't understand the life cycle in full and wasn't at peace with it. I was a teenager and I was mad. So I wrote this song and it just had this element that I couldn't pinpoint and I didn't know how to play. And James said, "Oh, you're just missing a little voodoo." And like it was like the second he
Really
said
take
it,
it to New Orleans.
yeah, the second he said it, I was like, "Oh, you're right." And I put the guitar down, and Kyle, who did the production but also played the bass, had just bought this upright bass. And he said, "Look, I'm not a session bass player. That's not what I do." He's like, "But I can hear what this, like, let me take a stab at it." And he's like, "And it might work better because I'm not a clean bass player." And I said, "Yeah, let's hear it." And he played the lick, and me and James looked at each other, and it was like, that's it. That's it. It's just it gets the point across. It's got the voodoo, and it's just sloppy enough to feel New Orleans. Like it wasn't purposefully sloppy, right? But it's just like someone new to an upright bass. Um, yeah, I love the way that song came out.
Uh, Micah Cottingham here on the Craig Veltri interview. You had mentioned that you actually decided to leave North Carolina and head for Los Angeles, and then you chose Nashville to pursue music. What necessitated the move to LA, and what about Nashville drew you back east?
Oh my gosh, I had no plans. I got in my car and drove west until I could drive no farther west, and then ended up in LA. There was no plan to end up
Well,
in
if you
LA.
drew any further, your car would be useless.
Exactly. So I was like, well, now I'm in LA. And a friend of mine saw a post that I had made and said, "Are you in Hermosa Beach?" And I said, "Do you even know where that is?" And he says, "Yeah, I'm living here right now. We have an extra room." And I said, "Perfect." And then I stayed there for a while. And then while I was there, I was actually working festivals. So I was traveling around to like Bonnaroo, Coachella, Electric Forest, and working for different vendors and in different installments for festivals and kind of seeing how these bigger shows worked.
Doing merch, doing selling tickets. What were you doing?
Um, it could be anything from vendor work, like if a vendor needs help, like say they are selling food or drink and they need extra hands, I would help with that. Or it could be more the logistical side of the actual festival itself, like artist concierge. So if an artist needs something, I would go get it.
A go,
Or
saying go for it.
exactly. So it could be any number of jobs. It's just kind of whatever was available for the festival. So during that time, I met a bunch of people who lived in Nashville. And while I was in LA, one of my roommates passed away, and we couldn't afford the apartment without him. And the apartment complex gave us 2 weeks to move out, and we didn't have anywhere to go. And part of me thought, I could make it work here in LA. But of course, because I like doing things for the experience, I said, I'm a musician. Why don't I just go to Nashville? And so I called up my festival friends and said, look, hey, do you know anybody who has a room in Nashville? I think I want to come there. And they said, when? I'm like, 2 weeks. Let's go. So,
Folks, it's just
yeah,
that simple.
yeah, the community just kind of like came together and I made another cross country trip and ended up in Nashville for I think 3 years.
And in that time of of 3 years, you put out this record, Singularity, and which sounds incredible and left the people wanting for more. 6 years later, we're nearing the release of your new single, Cigarettes. For lack of kinder phrasing, what took you so long?
Oh no, I get it. This is the question that always comes up. Um, to be blunt about it, the same thing that took so long the first time. Um, I was born in a very poor area with not a lot of resources. And although I've been making music my whole life, I didn't really know how to apply the little resources I had to make it, to record it, to mix it, to master it, to, like to pay everyone what they needed to be paid. Um, and also a lot of trauma. And so I spent many a year just getting my personal ducks in a row, trying to make sure that I was solid before, how do I say it, presenting myself to the public, essentially. Um, and so when the record came out in 2019, I really thought, it's really cute. I really thought I had dealt with everything. Um, and
Surprise!
yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm an adult. I'm healthy. Everything's great. My frontal lobe in. I have judgment now. Like all is well. Um, yeah. And while I was in a much better place, it took a little more digging to really deal with everything I needed to deal with, to get in a place where I could be financially stable, where I could have like a stable housing situation. Like I've been homeless several times in my life, where I could have stable food resources and a stable community and people that love me and support me. And that doesn't have to mean financially. I mean, like emotionally, they just want the best for me because I didn't realize that I didn't have that before. I had people who liked me for other reasons, but not because they actually cared and wanted to support. And it took a long time for me to sort all that out, if I'm being honest. And so now it's kind of wild. I mean, knock on wood, but I feel like I've done the sorting. Um, and now I feel like everything is kind of hitting this streamline where it's everything is moving a bit faster. And some of these songs on this record are from a difficult time that I'm not currently in anymore on the new record. And that's okay because I feel like people are always going to have hard times. So people are always going to need that music, even if it's not where I'm at currently.
I've always found in my recovery that, just because you've done the house cleaning doesn't mean that garbage won't pile up and dust won't collect later on. So I hate to inform you, you will probably have to continue to do that, do more of that.
Absolutely.
But it promises some great music. So we have a single called "Cigarette," and it sounds like there's an album on top of it. Does this album have a name? How many songs? Who produced it? What are
Yeah.
what more can we expect out of it?
Clay Bale, this is just as much his baby as it is mine. Clay is out of Nashville. He's a good friend that I met while I was living there, and really, really incredible. Like we have an understanding of how we work that is just I've not seen other people work this way, and I love it. Um, so Clay's the producer and did a lot of the instrumentation. Him and I pretty much did everything. I believe TJ Armstrong may have come in to do some bass, and Hayes Smith put down some lap steel that does not sound anything like lap steel. We produced the shit out of it. Um,
Well, cigarettes in particular, I mentioned the kind of the jazz element, and it almost feels like you almost lead into Great American Songbook standards on this song. And it's a very quick, almost TikTok length kind of number. Uh
mhm.
again, was this the song that you brought into with to these guys, or again was this okay? Maybe we should bring in like a full string section for this.
So I bring in everything to Clay acoustically, and I'll sit down and I'll say, okay, I've got this song, and then I'll play another, and I've got this song. and I'll play several, and he'll say, today that one is striking my fancy. That one is something I want to work on today. So then we just sit down and work on that song, and we'll swap ideas back and forth. Like, okay, do we want to put a full production on this? Do we want it to stay acoustic? Do we want to add horns and strings? Why don't we just make it a New Orleans brass band at the end? Why don't we just add this and that? So I would say a lot of the production ideas came from Clay, with my approval, essentially. And I trust him. Obviously, he's incredible. So, and he knows what I'm shooting for. He knows who I am at my core. So he can speak to the music I'm bringing him from my voice. He knows what I would like and what I would not like. So yeah, I would say a lot of it is Clay's baby. And we have, oh gosh, how many songs? I haven't had to count yet.
Will it be at least a full length, like over 10?
No, I think we're gonna do this as an EP as well. I thought about making it part one and a part two,
Hmm.
which that may still happen, but it won't release as a full length. I want to get these out as they are, and so it's between like 6 and 8.
Is it a cost-effective measure, the EP approach, or is it just, uh, you can really only give your creative attention and focus 6 songs at a time?
I think for this project and for the last one, it was more of a, okay, the clock's ticking on these songs, and I would like to get them out. Um, I believe that the future projects will move a lot quicker. And so that'll lend itself to maybe more of a full length in the future.
Now that you have a routine going, it's easier to just kind of plug in and stuff like that. Um,
Yes.
Now you mentioned the stuff that you're dealing with as far as the lyrics are concerned. Cigarettes is, while it is a very calm and soothing, kind of almost like smoking a cigarette itself, it kind of has a bit of defeat to it. I don't have the lyrics in front of me, but I do just
Mhm.
remember there's just kind of this angst, this to hell with it about it. What were you going? What was on your mind when you wrote that song?
So Clay and I were both going through breakups, essentially. That's a simplified way to say it. It was a lot more in depth than that. He was like planning to propose, and his lady, he opened the door and kind of knew. He was like, "Oh, she's gonna break up with me, and I've already bought a ring."
Mm.
And for me, I was in a relationship, and it was tragic and fell apart very fast. Um, and we were both kind of going through this hard time. And Clay, and I didn't have any vices. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't smoking. I've never smoked a cigarette. Um, Clay, on the other hand, was chain smoking cigarettes in his like windowsill, and I'm watching him do this, and I'm like, man, I don't have a vice at all. At least you have some kind of soothing thing. And I was like, I wish that I smoked cigarettes. Like, maybe I'd have a little something to lean on.
A little
And I
overrated. No, no, you don't.
oh yeah, oh yeah, I don't actually want that. But in that moment, it was more of like, I just wish I had a vice. I wish I had something to soothe me, because self-soothing was difficult. Yeah, it was just difficult to go through it on my own.
It's a learned behavior, and fortunately, you have the music to get you through that stuff. So, is the album itself going, or EP rather, going to be called Cigarettes, or is this collection going to be something else?
No, it's currently in mastering, and I have it down to two names, and I've given myself about a week or two to make the decision on what it will be called. Originally, when I was thinking about putting it out as a part one and part two for a two-part album in that way, I was originally thinking polarity to build on the singularity model
Makes sense.
and having part one and two, and that's still in the running. But as I'm pulling away from that old name, I was considering just kind of starting fresh
Hmm.
and
Why did you
going with
call it
something new.
Singularity in the first place? I said it was. It seemed ironic considering.
Yeah, because I chose all of the songs on Singularity, although of course I have hundreds of songs. I chose those songs because they tell they're the highlights of the story of where I come from. They're the highlights of my singularity, of like moments in my life where something was birthed, like the singularity of a black hole.
Mm.
So those were like those really cut to the center of moments in my life. And I felt like that was kind of the point of it being singularity and being the pop-off point, you know?
So you consider it being pure uh I can't pronounce words right now. Pure how did you phrase it?
Which part?
The polarity, I think it is.
Polarity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, can you
Yeah.
tell I minored in English? Anyway, um, so it sounds like you got a couple of great plans for this record. Now I noticed you didn't do music video or really a lot of press with the last album itself. Is that going to be upped in this one, like as far as promotion is concerned?
Yes. With the last album, again, funding was just a difficult thing at the time. I didn't have a lot of money. Um,
Reach.
and this time, this time I've applied for grants. I've accepted grants. They have come in gracefully, and I already have, I already have one complete music video in the backlog and ready to go. um, Working on the others currently, and the press is also in the works. So yes, I am upping that this time.
Which song is it off uh the last record, or is it going to be something for this record?
It'll be for the new stuff. There is how do I say this? A spoken word piece.
A spoken
Um,
word piece.
so it is over music, but it is a spoken word piece, and that's the one that we finished. I got a grant to finish the music video for that one. Um, and I'm very excited because that one I put in the poetry itself into a competition, an international competition, and was accepted. And so that poem itself has already gotten some press. And so I was accepted into a grant to make a music video for the musical version of the spoken word piece.
I've been getting back into listening to Henry Rollins, and I don't think anybody would accuse your music of being punk or hard rock. But I think about anytime I think about a piece like that, I think Liar. Just kind of this narrative almost is. Am I kind of at least on the wavelength of what you're attempting to do with that particular piece?
Kind of. Have you ever heard of a band called Listener?
I cannot say I do.
That's okay.
No
They're
listen.
not anything massive. But they kind of their whole thing is spoken word. They don't sing at all. They just make music and put spoken word over top of it. I would say it kind of falls in that vein. It's like got harbor sounds. It's got like the stretching of rope and like the clanking of the ships off in the harbor. Like it's got that kind of under the back of it. And it's got some nice wavy depth, a little concertina slowly moving back and forth through it. Nothing major, just some light atmosphere because the whole piece is called Penance.
Penance.
And it speaks to like how long are you gonna pay this penance that you think you owe for your sins, right? Like, how long are you going to beat yourself up for this instead of just
Yes, you did
accepting
grow
your
up in rural
goodness?
North Carolina. Well, Micah, we have a lovely way of closing here on the Craig Veltri interview. It's called the No Kidding Questionnaire. A couple of rapid fire yet poignant questions. First thing that comes to your mind, whenever you're ready, and away we go. Childhood celebrity crush.
Oh my gosh, Christina Aguilera.
From not I'm in Pittsburgh right now. She is from Wexford, and I kind of agree. What was it about her? Was it the voice, the lips? What?
Oh, this was during her stripped era. It was her unapologetically bold
Dirty.
thing. And I was like, ah, she's incredible.
Uh, I I was actually kind of fond of the stuff that she was doing on the record, like ain't no, after that record, ain't no other man and stuff like that. But
Oh yeah, was that her pinup era?
her pinup era, yes.
Yes.
I am an old soul. What can I say? Um, what was your favorite subject in school?
Oh, history.
Uh, did a particular discipline of history or subject within fascinate you more?
No, I have just found that every single time I've taken any sort of history class, I am just fascinated by the heinous shit that has happened throughout time.
We are wonderful and kind creatures, but put us in groups, we can do horrible things too. I agree. What occupation other than your own would you like to attempt?
Mm. Architect or astronaut?
Hmm. Uh, does that speak more to your because you mentioned history, which is more of a liberal art. That's kind of more science and math right there. Do you
Mhm.
do you draw? Do you
I do.
okay?
I have drawn my whole life as well, and so architecture's kind of always been an option. And I love, 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 love physics of space, so like cosmology. So hence the astronaut. If you told me that I could get in a ship and I could never come home, but I just had to go and send information back, I would probably do it.
You know, you might be the only person that might know who I'm talking about, but there was a lot of that face paint that you were doing reminds me of this one artist called Talk, and had a great song
Yes.
called "Runaway to Mars," and that I kind of reminded me of it, and I thought it was even too arcane for the modern audience, but I'm glad you might know who that is. So cool.
Yes, I do.
Um, what job, I don't care how many bags of money are handed to you, would you never want to attempt?
Oh, anything corporate.
Anything.
Anything corporate. I can't do a 9 to 5. I can't do 9 to 5. It hurts.
I agree. In fact, honestly, it took a lot. This is why I keep this down here, so it doesn't feel like I'm completely doing sales calls right now. So my microphone. Uh, well, you've been back and forth all over the world, really. But what is your go-to food on a road trip?
Oh man. If I'm gonna purchase it from somewhere, Thai food, it's good everywhere you go.
You have been
Um,
to Thailand. Uh, how hit or miss is America having you been over there and sampling the genuine article?
as far as the food, Thai food has in Thailand is much more seasoned in a nuanced way. It's not like they just put more of one seasoning that makes you feel a certain way, because their whole thing is sweet, salty, savory, and something else, like all in one meal. They want you to experience all of those things together. Oh, sour, all together in one meal. So it's like having fresh, if people drink coffee, it's like having a fresh ground coffee versus like an instant coffee, or like it's kind of the same in America, but I would say the spices and the flavors more robust in Thailand.
Hence, probably just how the soil is over here, and probably also the transit thereof over there. Stands.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite? Where is your favorite Thai place? Let's say just in America.
Oh my gosh. I don't remember the name of it, but when I lived in Florida, there was this little Thai lady. It might have just said like Thai food on the sign. And it's in Mariester, Florida, outside of Hurlburt Airfield, outside of their Air Force Base. And it is probably the best Thai food I've ever had in America.
Well, if you could have dinner with anyone, possibly over Thai food, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, it might be a cheesy answer, but probably my dad.
Nonsense. I would say
Yeah.
I've answered this question a bunch of times. My grandparents, especially my grandma Marty, for sure. I'd take that dinner every day. You mentioned that you believe that you have seen his ghost inspiring that one song. Have you seen him lately?
Oh yeah, actually, I remember my dreams every night, and every once in a while he'll pop in and say hello or help me out of a sticky situation or whatever, or show me where he's been. And he came through last week and was like, "Hey, sorry, I've been gone." And I was like, "It's okay, cool, good to see you."
Well, on a much more pessimistic side of things, what is your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, repeating myself, repeating myself because I feel like no one's listening to me when I have to repeat myself.
I feel the exact same way, which is why I hated doing calls. Why I hated doing sales. It was like, oh, nobody's listening. Okay, yeah,
You're like, oh, okay.
I communicate for a living, and I'm not. It's like catch up. I get it. Is do you do you find it as something that you uh that it comes up enough that it's that maybe it's something you work on or test your patience less and less?
Oh yeah. So my current partner is ADD, which means that I repeat myself often. And I was like, this is my karma. I was like, this is my karma for like, I was like, anything bad I've ever done is getting displaced every time I have to repeat myself and I have to practice patience and be like, okay, yeah, so the red cup goes there. Like,
Oh boy. And as ADHD, I have been your partner. Holy Christ.
uh,
So well, last question of the questionnaire. What is the best advice that anyone has ever given you?
the advice that has been on my mind recently. I don't know if it's the best advice I've ever gotten. Um, but the first thing that comes to my mind is when you're writing a song or talking to someone or making art or making music or whatever, if you don't feel it, no one else will.
Hmm.
So if you want to write a beautiful song that makes people cry, if it doesn't make you cry, it won't get there.
I don't know if you
So,
ever saw the musical Bye Bye Birdie. There's a song in there said you gotta be sincere.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, uh, and on the subject of your writing, I usually do ask this question not at the very end, but in the middle of an interview. It, as a writer, would you consider yourself more of a waiter or a writer? Meaning, do you wait for the inspiration to hit, or are you somebody that has a pen and paper nearby at all times?
Both. I have pen and paper nearby at all times, but I don't force it. I like to call it like song catching.
Song
Like,
catching.
yeah, it's like kind of just in the ether, and I'm like, oh, I'll take that one.
I got to tell you, some I've been back and forth to Nashville quite a bit lately. For whatever reason, I tend to just go on kind of like it must be something more in the air or going about. I've come to believe in energy transference, so I totally understand the catching portion of it. Well, Micah, this is the part of the program that every guest should love the most. It is time for shameless self promotion. The new record yet to be named is coming out. Cigarettes is on the horizon. When is that song coming out? When is that record coming out? And where can we find you, Ms. Cottingham? Fire away, please.
We are looking at about 3 months till release. I'm going to say 3.5 to give myself a little bumper. And you can find me on all socials at Micah Cottingham. I am switching over my Instagram this week, so hopefully by the time someone hears this, it will be that. If not, it is MICVH official. Um, yeah.
Well, this episode will we record this on Thursday, May 1st. It will be dropping midnight on May the 2nd. So yeah, you're so if you still want to find Micah at nearer to the recording, it's still how is that spelled, Micah?
MICVH official. That'll be the handle.
All right. Well, uh, well, by any other name, you're still awesome, and I really am looking forward to Cigarettes sounds incredible. I can't wait to hear what the rest of the record is. I've always admired you, and I've always admired your voice. And thank you, Micah Cottingham, the reborn Micah Cottingham. Thank you so much for joining me today. Not reborn, but rechristened. Thank you
I
so much
love
for
it.
joining me on the Craig Veltri interview.
Thanks, Craig.
I don't